Hey guys, so we are actually going to be changing the strings on this guitar today. And I can hear yourself thinking, well, that doesn't sound incredibly interesting. And you'd be right. We're not actually dealing with uh, the string change so much as talking about what I am going to be putting on this guitar. And that's where the fine folks at Melonare come back into the picture. And that is the perfect time for me to mention again that this is sponsored content. Um, the friends at Melonare asked if I would like to take a look at their guitar strings. And I said, actually, yes, I would. I have needed a couple of sets of strings in-house. I'm expecting some of my favorite brand, but I wanted to compare, and this guitar seemed to be the best candidate because number one, I really haven't changed the strings since Brian sent this one over to me. So they've been on here for the better part of a year and change, depending on how long they had been on the guitar before Brian sent it to me. But also because they are, I don't know if you guys can see that in there, these are D'Addario strings, which is currently my favorite brand. And I thought it would be good just to get a couple sound samples out of this with the old strings on. It's not really a complete comparison of new strings to new strings because these have been on for a while, but they are still in good shape. I keep the guitar clean, I keep the strings clean, and it has not had a humongous amount of playing time. It's not like I gig with this guitar or anything. So I thought that would be a good comparison. So about the strings, these are the Melonare GA-S2 strings, and these are 10 to 46 gauge, which is my normal gauge of strings for most of my guitars. They do make a 9 to 42 set as well. And when they asked me if I wanted to do this, I took a look at the Amazon listing, which I'll link below, and looked at some of the features that they have on the string, including a hexagonal, you can Caribbean, uh, hexagonal steel core and nickel plated winding, and as well as an anti-rust ball end, which we'll take a look at when we unpack these. The other thing I noticed was they are sweat resistant, corrosion resistant, because they have an ultra thin nano coating, which is similar to sets of strings that are much more expensive than these. So, and then we'll get to the pricing and such on that as well. So I thought, all right, well, we'll give them a shot. So what we're going to do, I'm going to get some sound samples out of this right now, and we'll record that, and then I will stop and I'll meet you over at the bench and we'll get the new strings on because I do want you to see me unpacking everything with the strings so we can talk about how they come in the package. If there's anything that I like, dislike about that, then we'll get it strung up on the guitar. I will stretch the strings out for a little while, so there'll probably be a little pause for me, and only a second or two for you till I get these tuned up where they're stable tuning, and then we'll come back and do some more sound samples and I'll have some final thoughts about the strings. So just to be clear, we are using the middle position on this guitar, and that's what we'll do for both playthroughs. Tone and volume are all the way up, and I have it on a clean patch with no reverb, so it should be pretty easy to tell how the sounds are going. I'm just going to do a couple chords. So you can hear what that sounds like, and I'm going to be using the same patch, same settings when I test the other string. Um, And then I just also did want to hit a couple of open notes so we can get some idea of what the sustain is like on these strings, and we'll compare it to the Melonare strings. About 7 or 8 seconds, we'll do another on the high end. That died out a little quicker. All right, we have an idea of what that sounds like. I'm going to turn this down, and what I'm going to have you do is join me over at the bench, and we will start with the unboxing of the strings and putting the new ones on. I'm not going to make you watch me take the old strings off. All right, guys, so I have taken the strings off and we are set to unpack everything. We have a plastic case holding 5 sets of strings, which, by the way, are currently on Amazon for just under $22. So for a little over $4 a pack, you're getting 5 sets of strings, compared to the pricing of my Didarios, depending on if you get a deal or a sale. For a little more than 1 set of strings, you're getting 5. So there's that. Let's take a look at what's inside. Package opened. We're going to pull out 1 set. I'm going to set the others to the side. We have a cardboard sleeve around each set of strings. As said, 10 to 46. A little peel-off part, opens easily. Not necessarily as neatly as you would think, but that's fine. It's not hard to open at all. That gets us to the set of the strings. They are not separately packaged. They are vacuum sealed in each plastic container, though, which is a good thing, because for guitar strings, air is your enemy. When you do string up your guitar, before and after you play them, you usually wipe everything down to keep things from getting dull or corroded. And it does look like each string is numbered in there. So let's open the package and see what we got. They are all coiled together, which fair, because you want to be able to get them out of a single package easily enough. It does mean that you do have to untangle everything. So I'm probably going to cut here and get back to having all the strings unwound. Okay, so we did get them unpackaged, and we've got the number 6 string here. And I just did read some of the reviews online that are already on Amazon, and just made note of a couple things that folks had said in reviews. One had said that the ball ends are a little bit bigger than a regular set of strings. As I'm comparing, it's very hard to see this on camera, I know. So I'm looking at it myself. I'm not noticing any gigantic difference. Based on what the review said, I was expecting to be much larger. This doesn't seem to be much different at all. Kind of hard to tell. Got the purple D'Addario ball next to the Melonare end. I'm going to say either some folks were making a bigger deal out of it, or Melonare may have taken the constructive criticism and made these a more normal-sized ball end, because I don't see too much difference myself. They do have, the strings are stickers that are stuck on, and it does appear to be sticking to the string just a little bit. It's loose enough. If I were to give one more piece of constructive criticism to Melonare, I know that packaging in individual sleeves would probably increase their costs, and that's entirely up to them if they want to avoid that. But I would probably get some kind of label that has a longer non-sticky part to put around the end of the wire. It comes right off, just tore it off right there, but you can see that it is still stuck to the wire here. So there's going to be a little bit of stickum on the end of the wire. I don't necessarily want that inside the string through ferrules, just because I wouldn't like anything sticky there. It doesn't feel too bad, but based on that review, I did come a little bit prepared, just because I work on my guitars a lot with different things. I do have some denatured alcohol here. I'm just gonna get a little bit on a paper towel and just wipe the very end of the guitar string by the ball end, just to get that stickum off. So that is one thing that I would recommend. If they could find a way to put these labels on without catching any of that on the ball end of the string, that would be ideal. And then we're just going to put this low E string on, and I'll get it tightened up on screen here. Then I will let you guys go as I put the other 5 strings on and stretch them out, because I'll come back when they're all on and we'll tune it up, just get a basic feel for how they're feeling and how they're sounding. They feel fine to me. We'll see how they feel when they play on. I don't feel anything that seems extraordinarily cheap, considering that these are budget priced strings. So, all right, let me move the rest of the strings off to the side here. tip the guitar up and feed it through the ferrules. Up through the saddle. Yep, absolutely no issue getting through the string through body. So as far as any issues about the size of the ball ends, I haven't had one yet. All right, and I do have locking tuners, which should hopefully make this a little bit quicker for us. Technically, with locking tuners, you can just pull it all the way taut, or as taut as it's going to get, and lock it down. I pull back just a little bit. I like to leave myself a little wiggle room for tuning if I were to down tune this at all. I know technically with it pulled tight, you shouldn't have to, unless you're really going down to something ridiculous like drop C sharp. But personal preference, which is about a lot of things for guitar setup, including action, etc. Get this wound up. I think that's probably even a little tight. I'll just grab my tuner here too, because I don't want to put too much tension on these as I'm stringing it up. All right, there we go. That's going to need to be stretched in. All right, I'm going to give you guys a break here. And when we come back, we will have 6 strings on the guitar. Just going to come back mid-string change here to show you. I don't know if you can see that. This is one label where it actually did wrap around the string pretty hard, and that's going to be a little harder to get off. So Melonare, again, constructive criticism. So far, I don't have any complaints about the strings. They feel okay on the guitar. We'll find out more playing. But yeah, these labels at the end of the string, which while they are handy considering you package them all in one, there has to be a way that the stickers can be made so that the center part that goes around the string doesn't have any stickum on it. That would be very helpful. All right, we have 6 strings attached. Other than the little bit of mess with the stickum on the end near the ball end, I didn't have any issues putting the strings on. There was no issues with the size of the ball ends and the ferrules. Getting everything up to tune was relatively easy, and I will still have to stretch these in. So I'm going to pause it here, and I will meet you back at my desk for a few sound samples and comparisons of sustain and etc. All right, so that's not the test of the strings, but that's what I've been doing for the past, I want to say, half an hour to 45 minutes just to play the strings in a little bit besides stretching them. So we're going to go back to the clean tone that I had been using before just to compare the sounds. But I do want to say one thing offhand. I don't mind the feel of these at all. And I don't know if you can see my fingertips, But if you've ever bought a budget guitar, say a Firefly or someplace else that comes with less than ideal strings, and you've played them through with what's on there, you can relate to having the black fingertips from whatever is on those strings. These don't have that. I haven't had an issue with anything on them, and they seem to be pretty stable now after just stretching them for about 5-10 minutes and then playing them in for a good half hour to 45 minutes. Switch back to the clean tone, and we'll shut the reverb off. And I'm just going to go through the strings one at a time, and just so E is just a smidge flat. A is fine. D is right there. G string, which is usually a culprit, is fine. A little sharp. And that's after playing on it for 45 minutes and doing a lot of stuff like all the bends and stuff that I was doing with that track. So all right, let's just go back to the chords that I did the last time. I'm not noticing anything terrible with the tone. If anything, these maybe sound just a little brighter than what I had on before. And I don't know, I won't say apples to oranges, but those were a set of strings that were at least a year old. They didn't have a whole lot of playing time on them, but I did keep them clean, and they were D'Addarios. These are brand new strings. I've found that when I put brand new strings on, they always tend to sound a little bright for a little while. So we'll see what goes on, but let's check the sustain. That was pretty close. That could be my pedal cutting the noise out too, but it's the same settings that I was using with the D'Addarios. That's not bad at all. Yeah, I think that's my pedal doing that because the higher strings seem to get cut off. Yeah, you can hear it when it just softens down because the string itself is still ringing out, which you can't hear. I'd say this is very comparable in sustain and tone to the strings. Let me turn the volume down on the guitar and take the headphones off, and we'll just do a couple final thoughts here. So, real talk, do I know if these are going to replace my D'Addarios or any of the other higher end strings that I have? Perhaps not on a final setup. On a guitar that I'm going to be getting completely set up and getting it the way I want, I might still go with the higher price strings. That being said, I've got a lot of guitars back here, guys. And to keep them all in brand new strings, especially when I'm working on them, doing intonation setups, any kind of action adjustments, modifications to the guitars, am I going to want to be constantly changing high price strings? Probably not. For the cost of these, like I said, currently around $22 on Amazon. I think when I originally checked out the price, they were on sale, so they may go on sale. The 9s are currently on sale for, I want to say 17. Your mileage may vary by the time this video airs. They may change that. But for less than $4 a pack of strings, compared to what my D'Addarios typically go for, let's take a look at that real quick. Just, I know that they were either close to $10 or over. Yeah, currently for a single set of strings, $12.99. A pack of 3 for D'Addario, 10 to 46. The XLs that I get are currently $21. So for the same price, you're getting 5 sets of strings. I've got to say, for someone doing a lot of work on guitars, or to have extra strings around at an affordable price, I don't think these are bad at all. I think you could do far worse. I know that a lot of people have, you get whatever's on sale for a pack from different brands. No black on the fingers. They hold tune pretty quickly. They played in very quickly too. They feel decent. I I don't have anything to complain about with the feel of the strings. So would I recommend the strings? Yeah, I think so. I think definitely. Now again, they're only available in the 10s, 10 to 46, and the 9s, 9 to 42. They don't have bass strings, they don't have flat wounds, they don't have custom gauges, but this is a relatively new brand, and I think they're trying to get some traction. Melonare, I hope you pay attention to the reviews and take to heart some of the constructive criticism, like the either the packaging or the labeling of the strings. Again, I don't know what your cost margins are on these and how much that would affect your pricing if you did go to separate sleeves for each string, or how much it would cost to change that little label on the end. That is the one thing I would recommend, is just getting rid of the stickum on the end, because I don't know if it's not a big deal to take a little denatured alcohol and just rub the end by the ball to get any of the stickum that's stuck to it off, but it's not something you really expect to want to do when you're changing strings. That being said, I'm pretty happy with these. So I would definitely say, if you're got a larger fleet of guitars, or you do a lot of work, even just to have them for shop strings, you could do far worse, because this is something you could set up a guitar that you're flipping with, put these on, and whoever gets this guitar is going to be perfectly happy with these strings, especially a beginner or someone to just get the guitar, play it right away until they have to change strings, and put whatever they prefer on, whether it's Melonare or D'Addario or Ernie Ball, etc. I don't think you can go wrong at this price to try them out. So I want to thank Melonare again for the opportunity to review the strings. I really appreciate them taking a chance on me, and I'm glad I got to share this all with you. I will uh, probably post an Amazon review for these as well, just to give the feedback to Melonare, but also so that I can go back down the road. Let's say, uh, I know that they say on average, depending on how much you play, you may want to change your strings up to 5 times a year. That depends. I keep my guitar strings pretty clean, depending on the usage of the guitar. If it's not in high rotation, I just make sure to tune it up and play them all, clean them off, and I could probably get away with 2 to 3 string changes a year. Granted, this one is the first time in a year, so um, again, yeah, I think these are a decent set of strings to have around the shop, just for anything, especially if you've got. I'm just trying to think. There's any number of cases where I could think having these around would be good to have, just because you can keep them on hand. If you don't have your preferred set of strings, these are going to be fine. They're going to be absolutely fine to play with. I didn't think the tone sounded that bad. You guys can let me know what you thought about the original tone and what was on these in the comments. If I had better editing skills, I would have put the tone side by side, maybe next time. So again, thank you, Melonare. Thank you all for hanging in there with me for a demo on strings. I wasn't sure how that was going to work out, and we will see you next time.